Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the next episode of Deenpreneurs episode. And if you guys remember, usually what we do, we get to Muslim brothers and sisters who are doing amazing things and get your life story. And today I have brother Zafir. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me.
So we have a very special project he's doing right now. We will get to that, but before that, we want to go back. And usually in our guests, I was telling it's a very casual talk, get to know your story and what makes you tick, what makes you you today. So we usually start our question, the childhood questions. The first question I want to ask is that if you can remember a story, can you share a story from your childhood that makes an impact of who you are today?
Well, I mean, my story is of resilience and persistence, you can say. But as it relates to sort of my career path, I think I've known since a very young age that I love real estate and I loved construction and I love building things, whether it was small things at the time when you're a child. But it's sort of, you kind of know in your heart what you like doing. And so no matter sort of the detours that you took, you sort of end up at those places because it's sort of always in the back of your mind. And things naturally have come to me in terms of learning, from a grassroots level about real estate. And I started at a very young age. It started with sort of almost being involved with some properties my father owned while I was going through high school, and sort of, it just kind of came naturally to me. And before I knew it, I was sort of helping him out and taking it sort of almost a leadership role, you can say. While this was a pastime for my family, it became sort of something that I naturally wanted to do. And so it was really a journey of trying to learn everything. And when you have a passion for something, you start really looking at it from a different lens. You start, learning as much as possible. And frankly, you're not afraid to make mistakes even along the way. You sort of have this drive where you're aggressively trying to do it, and sometimes you're over aggressive. But like I said, that's part of the journey of anything you do, I think. And you make mistakes along the way. You meet people along the way that are either good for you, they help you move towards your goals, or they sort of stagnate you. But ultimately, it's a journey, and that's what I've been going through since a child.
Absolutely. I mean, so for those who are listening, we'll get into the story. I mean, right now, Brother Rizwan is doing, Zafir is doing, sorry, Rizwan. Brother Zafir is doing one of the largest projects I know personally, very close to Orlando. It's probably when it's ready, it's going to be over, inshallah, $1 billion in value. We'll get to that, but today we're gonna unpacking the person and the story. And you mentioned right now, even at a young age of 15, you said you started doing real estate management for your father first, for the family. But what I want to understand is, did you know, like, because one thing could be that okay, I have to do that real estate because of my family, right? You have to take care of that, but because it is a thing. Some people like it, some people don't like it. You seem to like it since you are here and you've been doing this on, I don't know, more than 30 years. When was the point yet did you realize this is something for you? This is something really, really interests you?
I think I knew it when I started sort of buying my own properties,
Okay,
fixing them up myself,
okay,
and started sort of risking, you could say, my own money and putting my own time and effort. And I had some close friends that, I sort of became my partners at the time. But I would say, around the age of 18 is when I really knew it. I had a knack for identifying sort of properties that I felt would be able to create some value.
I see.
And, they were undervalued or they would have some value. I was not afraid to get my hands dirty. I did a lot of things manually myself to save money, whether it was repairing things or fixing things, and sort of I ended up really doing whatever it took to take a property from wherever stage it was to the next level. And so I started accumulating properties at a very young age.
I see. So, as you said, at the age of 15, you started actually managing for your family, for your father first, and then at the age of 18, you said you had started buying your own and getting into. So it seems that's when you realize, okay, that's something I'm gonna do way beyond. Not I have to do what I have to do, but I want to do something on my own as well. My question is that we know that real estate, for some people, it's interesting, for some it's not. And one thing we know, and as anything, you want to do really good, it's not easy, right? It takes a lot of effort, this and that. And what was your, I'm talking about 18 years old brother Zafir. What was your motivation? Is it something you wanted to earn more money, or you actually really enjoyed the process itself, or maybe both?
Well, I think as a business person, an entrepreneur, I think money is always sort of a byproduct of it. But really, it was drive from having passion for the real estate. Like I said, there's a lot of things that I did that I don't think most people would do. It's hard work, especially when you're starting early, and sort of you know you're learning at the same time, and you are making mistakes at the same time. So the only way to overcome those mistakes was to have passion for it.
I see. So keeps you going. So you're 15, you're 18, you're doing this thing. Probably at this time you're making a good money, I would say.
I was making decent, yes, I was making decent money. There was definitely profits that were being made. You can say I started off with just sort of fixing homes and flipping homes, and definitely from where I would enter the market and what I would end up having the value or exiting those properties, there was definitely a margin of profit that was pretty good.
So the reason I'm asking that question is, I guess, imagine you're 18, you're making enough money. Was it enough for you to just fully focus on that? That's the first question. The second question is that if it was or it wasn't, I want to understand did you go to university or college to get some education as well? You said, now I know what I need to do. I'm just going to focus on that one.
You know what? My parents were very much focused on me getting an education, like
Okay.
any
Like everybody else, I guess, in our
like
community.
any first generation
Yeah.
Muslim that came here and worked hard. So they were focused on me getting an education. Definitely, their plans were for me to probably become a doctor, and my dad really, I think that's what his hope and dream was. But I kind of knew in my heart that wasn't for me. But really, I did go through my education. I studied economics
Hmm.
at the University of Alberta. But through that process, even while I was going to University of Alberta, my focus was still on managing not only my father's properties, but also the properties that I had acquired. And even during that process, I believe, I even took a real estate license course and
Interesting.
to understand the sort of the buy and sell. And a lot of it was, hey, maybe I can save some money by purchasing my own properties and save commissions and things like that. But I really learned through that as well. So,
see.
yeah.
So what you're saying is that the getting education for you, and more importantly for your family, was important. So you took that path. But even you did that, you necessarily didn't do what they want, but you still get an education. But even there, you at the back of your head, mind, like you know what you want. So you're looking at from that angle, right? Even you're learning economics, you're looking like how is it
Yeah.
going to benefit me in real estate? Is that true?
Absolutely. And I think while I was going through schooling or university, I think that was always in the back of my mind. But there was obviously some subjects like economics that did interest me. Business interested me. Business classes interested me. Well, it was definitely something that I knew that I could apply it to
Hmm.
sort of what I'm doing.
Sounds good. So I mean, we wish we could talk hours, but sometimes we want to get the highlights in the story. So we were talking about your, as you mentioned, when we were having a discussion earlier, you said um, you are actually second generation. Your parents are from Pakistan originally.
That's
You
right.
were born and raised in Montreal. you went to the studies, you were 18, 20 years old. Can you give us a highlight, like you've been in real estate for the last 35 years, up until the point where about this big project we're going to discuss towards the end, Everest Place, up until the point, what were your highlights in your career, in your journey, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think I've never been satisfied with where I'm sitting. So there was always this sort of, I guess, motivation to keep getting bigger and bigger. And I guess from a real estate perspective, I wasn't afraid of it. I don't think I had any fear of taking on challenges. So I wanted to grow. I didn't want to simply, stay at the level that I was at. There was definitely a motivation to grow, and I was, sort of, you could say, passionate about being in control and getting, buying larger and larger properties. And I think everybody has a dream. My dream was to build big projects at some point. Whether or not, you 100% believe it or not at the time is one thing, but certainly I've always had the confidence to believe that I can do it, given the right circumstances, given the right amount of capital, given the right opportunity coming along. I always believed in myself that I could do it. It hasn't been a straight line, of course. There's been some, I've developed everything from, like I said, just managing properties, but then, it sort of went to home building and started building homes. And it starts with one brand new house, and and then you start building more, and you're buying lots from other developers, and you're kind of, sort of organically growing, and you're learning about the trades, you're learning about the construction. You're learning about finance, because, as you are growing, you need more and more capital.
Especially in real estate.
Especially in real estate. So for the most part, early on, it wasn't so much investors, it was really relying on finance. And so, I would say that I've had ups and downs like anybody else. Some things have gone really smooth, and then you'd hit a ripple, whether it's market conditions, whether it's, partners that don't really are in your benefit.
Yep.
But those are that's been part of the journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think all those experiences have taught me. But, I ended up, basically having a knack for buying not only real estate properties that were existing, but also land. And I loved land because it was like a canvas.
You can build your dream on
You
it.
can build whatever comes to your imagination and design it and master plan it. And of course, you're learning from your consultants, your engineers, all the people that are really more experts and have more knowledge than you. But ultimately, it's sort of you sign off on the vision. And that's really was, I think, naturally, I was naturally gravitating to that.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you is that you've been in the real estate 35 years. I mean, you've done almost, as you said, you started at the bottom, you started building up the firms, and later on you're doing bigger and bigger projects. So looking at this 35-year span, after trying all of the stuff, in real estate, what would be the things you said, oh, these are the things I'm really, really passionate about? You mentioned one of the keywords, master planning. Is it something you are into, or if it is, what it is? For a lot of people, they may not know what it is. I myself, I barely get to know you recently and get to know, but tell us about what it is and how it works.
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned, I think I loved the whole building and construction aspect of it. I've never been one to just simply buy existing assets too much. I mean, I did that early on, but then the passion was really about construction. I love building, and I love putting your own sort of stamp on construction. But it starts off with any property has its highest and best use, right? So it's not what you have in mind that you want to build, but it's the property that sort of gives you a view into what's going to work there. And I think that's a talent in itself, and that's a skill set, because you have to have vision for a property. You have to see something somebody else doesn't, because real estate, it's everywhere. There's land everywhere. You will find lots of places and lots of land for sale, but then you have to figure out what can work. You have to do something that somebody else maybe has not seen, or you have to figure out a way of how to get from basically a greenfield project all the way to a finished project. But not everything is going to work. So I think that in itself is a passion of taking a challenge of seeing what somebody else didn't see and turning it into something that is workable. Now, there's a lot of factors that grow into it. Like I said, it's not a straight line. You deal with a lot of external factors, whether it's finance, whether it's equity, whether it's market conditions. Um, the dilemma with greenfield projects is that sometimes it can take a long time before you get to an approval state. You start off with sort of a concept plan. So when you say master plan, it's really taking a raw land and carving it up into its highest and best uses. That involves, exposure, for example. Sometimes you have an exposure that is best suited for commercial instead of residential, right?
Yep.
You may have a property that commercial won't fit into residential. So it's really identifying those things, and then planning it out, whether it's internal roadway systems, utilities, common areas, all of that stuff comes into play. But I believe that the journey that I've had and the experience that I've had really sort of led me to being able to have the confidence and the ability to do a project like we are doing in Orlando right now today.
Alhamdulillah. So before we jump to the project in Orlando, I want to ask like just up before that, if I ask you highlight the numbers, or I mean in real estate, what will be the main KPIs to say, okay, you can say, okay, we have done. I mean, I understand it's not just only you. Sometimes, most of the time it takes the whole group, the team, to do that. So tell us, just before Orlando, what were the biggest achievements you want to highlight in your 35 years of in real estate? Then we can jump onto I believe this is the largest project so far. We will jump onto that in a moment.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always been about value add for me. I think where it really took off was, as I mentioned, I did create a portfolio of projects, properties. They were cash flowing. They would all be value add for the time. I did a lot of home building as well, all the way into, across Canada in different areas, including Winnipeg, and ended up doing a subdivision, home building. Markets weren't ideal at the time, but it was an experience where you end up doing a full subdivision and building homes, and all those homes, appreciated and right at the right time. But there was a period between, I would say, 2006 to almost 2008 where really made some serious grounds, which was really identifying a gap in the market. I think during that time there was a housing shortage across the board, and there's not enough inventory out there. So basically, even in a place like Alberta, where there was an oil boom going on. I think oil prices were well over $100, $110 a barrel. Growth was crazy, but nowhere to live. I would say that the quickest money that I made was really taking old buildings, converting them into condominiums, and really selling those off. And in some cases, we sold 100 units in like a day.
Wow.
That's how much demand it was, and it was
100
really
units in a day.
Yeah, and it was
huge.
Yeah. You would have a lineup of people, investors buying, because there's no properties available. And at that time, I would say that was a game changer for us. Of course, shortly thereafter, you had sort of the subprime crisis that happened in the U.S. It affected lending. Suddenly, everything else dropped. Oil prices dropped. Gas prices dropped. I think, during those few years, there was really not much you could do wrong. And you can make mistakes and still you'd overcome them, no problem. I think that was a challenging time after that. But, saying that, made a lot of money during that process, bought a lot of other assets. I was involved in buying a large tracts of land, 160 acre parcels, where same thing, the plan was to master plan, residential communities, things like that. And most often than not, I didn't even end up having to develop them. I ended up selling them just after getting certain approvals, plans approved, things like that, engineering work done, and selling. So those were really the highlights, I would say, of my trajectory. to where I am today. Yes, we've built everything from other hotels, residential homes, commercial, industrial, retail, and so we've developed a lot of other assets, right? But really, I would say the talent is really identifying the right property.
So, I mean, the question is, I guess, I would like to ask is like over this 35 years with the company, like what is the, like how many, I mean, I'm not asking exact question, like approximately how many projects or how many condominiums or maybe, I don't know, that their value, where would you put them? Because sometimes people may have a difficult understanding what it means.
Well, I mean, I guess during 2006, 2008, we probably did well over 1,500 condominiums just within a 2-year period.
I see.
We did significant amount of units. A lot of them were simply just taking an apartment building, converting them to condominiums, and then selling them off instantly. In those times, a lot of people made a lot of money. There was people that bought our condominiums and then flipped them and made more money than we did.
I see.
That's how crazy the time was. So it's all about really, I would say, that's during the 35, that sticks out to me. But then there's been a lot of places where we've made money, and I think the quickest money has been is really adding value to land.
I see.
Buying the land at a stage, taking it through a certain process of appreciating that value of the land. And that ultimately my strategy has always been is that de-risks you because you build in basically equity as soon as you can get to that stage. Then the building and construction aspect of it is sort of natural. It's not that hard. I mean, you rely on your contractors, you rely on your subconsultants, and you rely on your subcontractors. And then it just comes down to leadership, watching every step of the construction and really building. And that's what's satisfactory that's the most satisfying thing.
I see.
Seeing something built.
Absolutely. So in terms of the, like, just if we just take in that period, is that 2006 and 2008, you said 1,500 condominiums, right? So on average price in Alberta, I don't know, would you say 500K, less or more? What would you say?
At that time, believe it or not, they were selling as low as 110, 120.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we bought some units at even $60,000, $70,000.
Wow.
We sold them for $80,000, $90,000. Those people sold them for 150. Sometimes we bought them for $100,000. They would sell for $200,000.
I see.
So it was, like I said, it was a very unique period of time.
I see. So I'm just trying to get the value, like a 1,500 condominiums at 100K, it will be how much? Where does it land us?
We're probably making about $3.5 to $4 million a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm
profit.
saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I see. That's no, I mean, in terms of the volume itself, it's going to be at least a couple of 100 million.
Yeah,
isn't
and I
it?
mean, I guess my sort of mindset was not to get greedy. We knew that there was a lot of upside, but that's why we were able to sell and blow out these units very quickly. Was that there was a small margin. You leave enough room for other people to make
I
money,
see.
and
Sounds good.
so that strategy worked. Where
I see.
basically as soon as you had a product, there would be a line up out the door saying, "Hey, what's the next product coming?"
I see.
Yeah.
So another thing, and now we're gonna move to the project, the Everest Place. I think first we met a few months back when we were discussing this thing. As I told you, like where I come from, usually we do, as a part of our agency, we help a lot of Muslim, businesses to grow. And we're sitting and discussing. If you remember, I told you I don't usually get excited about real estate. That's not what I do most of my things. It's a digital world and apps, and this is what we understand. But then you started discussing the Everest project, and I can see the excitement in your eyes when you discuss that. It's very dear and near to your heart, maybe. So I just want to ask, like, tell us the story. I know it's been some time in the building. Tell us the story, the background story, where it is right now, and more importantly, why you are doing exactly this. You could have been doing so many other things, but why exactly this? Why now?
Yeah, I think a project or something that comes along that just makes a lot of sense. And yes, it's in real estate, there's nothing without challenges, and certainly you don't have all the answers. I think that's not true in terms of, hey, I knew exactly what was going to happen here. But certainly, as I said, my experience with land has been going on for well over 20 years. I understand land. I understand engineering. It's sort of like something where I absorbed everything from our engineers, our contractors, and everything else, and sort of that knowledge is a reason where I felt confident in this particular property. But really, the story is interesting that um, we were working on a project out in the Dominican Republic actually, and there's been sort of this passion to build something that's a little bit different. I've never been afraid to do something outside the box. I believe that if you just follow the same thing, then yeah, it works when everybody else is, when it's successful. But then if there's a ripple or anything else, you're sort of, you're just like at the mercy of the market. And I wanted to do something different. I think there's definitely an element that is interesting to me, which is the Muslim traveler, and we know what the trends are, but really I studied it. I had a group that approached me and said, look, there's a property out in Dominican Republic. We'd like to do it with you. You're the developer. You're an experience. And it was like, it was a challenge, but as I said, it's sort of like when I see a challenge, I say, okay, well, let's see if we can make it work. And is the market there? And are we just sort of is it only passion, but does it actually make sense? And so started looking at it, worked hard on it for a few years, and it didn't work out as well as I thought it would. It's in the Caribbean. It takes a lot of money. The finance was not available. We were sort of just almost, and even when I got things moving, COVID hit.
I see. So we're talking about 2018, 19,
Yeah,
20 probably.
exactly. So I thought was, what, it's a great project, and really it started off with building a Muslim-friendly, halal-friendly resort, all-inclusive in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, with this group. For a number of reasons, there was not a good sense, and alhamdulillah, it was probably for the best. But certainly, I don't like losing at anything. It's sort of my mindset. I hate losing, and I hate something that I start something and I don't finish, and it was bothering me. And I said, look, what other market is there that this concept could work? Maybe this is not the best market, but there's a better market. And suddenly Orlando, I used to visit Orlando regularly. I knew the market. And I started looking for basically property in Orlando. And, looked at a lot of properties, and it was really just in mind to just build one hotel.
So you want to, we're talking about the MISC.
Yeah, the MISC concept.
Yeah.
But at that time, it wasn't really the MISC. It was just simply like, we're going to build a hotel and possibly our own brand or whatever. So couldn't find the right property. I did put a few offers on a bunch of properties. Couldn't make it work. And suddenly, this property's, through my contacts came on the radar. And I drove by it, and I just knew that this was it. And of course, during this time, everybody's sort of hesitant. You can say that, COVID was around the corner.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, tourism is
Shutting down.
shutting
Everything shut
down.
down.
There's no, and people thought I'm crazy. And frankly, that was the only reason why. But I looked at it and I said, look, this is a prime property. There's not another property like this. Decided that we're going to go for it. And it wasn't easy because, as you can imagine, whether it's investors, whether it's lenders, they're also sitting back and saying no. So in any event, we were able to convince people to come in. We threw money into it, and alhamdulillah, we closed the land. After we had at least gotten enough information from our preliminary engineering studies and environmental study, things like that, to say, look, it's a calculated risk, but I think we're going to be okay. At the worst case scenario, this is what's going to happen. And so we did our sort of really analysis on the property. And but really the plan was, and I started working on the master plan, of course, and that's what I started doing. And I can say that there was some butting heads with people, no doubt about it, because people thought we should go in this direction or that direction, But I stuck with it and got what I needed, and I got it approved. And today, it took 5 years to get to this stage, but really it's now a property that's fully approved, under construction. We were successful in signing, Nickelodeon with Paramount Pictures. We brought on an international brand, which is a Kempinski brand, Misk by Shaza, which is well-recognized brand in the Middle East. They operate in multiple countries, and have locations in Mecca, Medina, Doha, Qatar, the one you visited, as well as many other locations, and it's professionally managed. So I wanted to take sort of the variable about, hey, running a hotel is not something that, we haven't operated or any hotels, but we wanted to bring in somebody that is professional. And same thing with Nickelodeon. We brought in a professional management company that manages the other resorts as well. So that's how it started. And of course, a master plan community with over 2,500 units, includes a medical center, includes a grocery store, a national tenant or national, you can say, grocery store anchor that we brought in. There's restaurants. It's a full-blown city, and going to be well over $1 billion easily. So this is sort of the journey, but it's a fun journey. And but really, I think everything that I've learned over the course of my career sort of helped me get to this level with this project.
So, I mean, coming back to that question, as I said, we have been doing marketing for the last 10 years at least. So, I think your strategy, there are at least two things I like about your strategy. First is you said, look, I'm not going to build where everybody is building, because I want to build something different. I want to stand out. The same thing we do in marketing as well. You have to stand out, right? To be the Seth Godin, one of the marketing authors, he has this book called Purple Cow. If you're driving by the road and you see black cow, white cow, or brown cow, you don't look at it. But if you see a purple cow, say, hey, what's going on? Why is it different, right? In that sense, so when we were telling me your story, so excitement, I'm looking at, okay, that's the prime location, because I don't know a lot about real estate, but I know one thing. It's about always location, 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 right? So it's 5 minutes from Disney, and you have the whole Disney amusement parks, and then you have Universal. But who is the third? Paramount. But Paramount has nothing, right? So anybody who's gonna go in those places, and we know, like, a lot of people, still, even adults, they watch this SpongeBob and all the other characters from them, but they have nowhere to go, nowhere to experience. And this is what number one, what you're building. The second one, as you mentioned, about the MISC, is yes, it's a wellness and health. At the same time, for growing probably at least in the US, 5 million Muslims we're talking about. And then we have Canada, 3 million Muslims. And there's so many international Muslim travelers who are going to come to that place. As you said, they don't have a place to stay. This is going to be their, I wouldn't say why not the number one choice to stay there to do this. And I think from those angles, I see what you're doing is like, it makes sense. Number two thing you mentioned, you are a developer. You are a master plan developer. You don't want to be in the business of managing the hotels, right? That's why another smart decision, I think, you are working with people who already know what they're doing. And the other day I was in a meeting with Charisma and how they talk about the experience. It's not just making quick buck and moving on, right? It's just giving that experience and making the people remember and giving all this, I don't know, I mean, unique experience. That's all about it, right? So tell us more about we're talking about the Nickelodeon, like 5 minutes from Disney, and we're talking about this new coming hotel as well. But it's not just two objects. You have some other, like, for example, you mentioned the other day, Global Village project. Tell us more about, I want to know more, and how it's going to add to that original vision to make this a different place to experience some unique experiences.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this project is going to be a destination within the destination of Orlando. And Orlando, as most people know, is they come multiple times. It's not just one thing. You're not going to be able to go see everything in Orlando on one trip. We're sort of complementary piece, but really I think what's going to set us apart is that it is going to have sort of more of a high-end component to it, more of a luxury component to it. You mentioned health and wellness. You know, we did create um, areas within the development for medical centers and state-of-the-art treatments, so people can come in not just for obviously Disney, but they come in for Disney, but they can also get treatments. And you know, I think there's a medical tourism aspect to this development as well. A lot of the restaurants, the food, the cuisine is all going to be on the high-end scale, which is not too prevalent in Orlando. Yes, you see a lot of that in Miami, but there's a lot of people that come up from Miami and other places of the world that are sort of looking for this, but there's not too many options there, all in one spot, including shopping. Um, you know, you mentioned the MISC, and it's still a very luxury product. It's to bring in an international flavor to the development. I think the whole development itself is positioned in a way to make it sort of a multicultural sort of location. It's there for everything, and I think, you know, we haven't yet finalized everything with Global Village, but you know, we do have an agreement executed, but that fits perfectly well because I think people will come. They'll know that, hey, this is the place to come here for this type of experience, whether it's pavilions, exhibitions. It's a theme park component, but it's completely different than what Disney, Universal is offering. You have Margaritaville on the other side, which is a completely different concept. And of course, it's still very complimentary because you're not sort of too far away from everything. So what I expect from our development is that the experience is going to be very different than what other places are offering. That includes the Nickelodeon experience that you mentioned. There is no Nickelodeon at the moment. Nickelodeon has come a long way. Paramount Pictures and is the parent company. They've done a wonderful job of you know, improving the quality and the experience, the programming. Everyone knows how popular their sort of their whether it's their shows, whether it's their characters are, but you know, they've been sort of taken a hiatus from the Orlando market for quite some time, and it's exciting to have them, and it's considered actually a luxury product themselves. It's not a cheap product. So I think everything that sets us apart is that really the high-end aspect of it, but also a place where we want a lot of different cultures to kind of integrate as well. There's a huge Latin American you know, community in Florida, as everyone knows. We want to tap into that. You know, I think everybody has pride from a cultural point of view, but also people are curious as to see other cultures. I think that's what's missing. People are curious about it, and so that's our goal. And we've seen tremendous interest. Another aspect of this resort, especially with the MISC in mind, is that, you know, myself being raised here in North America, we have a lot of friends that are non-Muslims, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Catholic, whether they're other cultures, and you know, I would consider them very, very good friends, and so, you know, I would like to see this place as a place where it's very inclusive. It's people get to experience different cultures, but understand each other's differences as well. I think there's a lot of stereotyping and sort of things that come into play mainly because of the media. But I think once people get to know each other and they're in an environmental setting, there's a lot of similarities. And I think that's another aspect of it that I'm excited about, is that I've always stressed that, listen, you know, the MISC is not simply just a Muslim resort. It's a resort where, yes, we want, you know, it's people that have similarities with conservative values. It's a family-friendly atmosphere. It's all about the food,
Wholesome.
the experience. It's about modesty. It's about those things, which exists in a lot of other cultures and religions. So that's the other differentiating factor about this development.
Absolutely. So, the one of the things, like, tell us, because you know, I was there a few, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. I've seen the land has not been prepared. Now there's a lake standing there, but you were telling me just you have not seen how it was before. It was all like a forest and like wetlands, right? So tell us about that progress from the moment you took where it's right now, and then what is going to go in the next year or two, so the listeners and watchers get to see where you are in the progress.
Yeah, I mean, if you go and look at an old Google Maps photo of the development, it looks like it's a lot of wetlands and trees. It's evolved over the last few years. It took us, I think, well over 4 years before we even started breaking ground and doing something. There's a lot of you could say regulatory approvals that go into a project like this. There's a lot of things to consider, whether it's storm retention, utilities, roadways, traffic, zoning, entitlements. All of that stuff takes time, and engineering a project of this size, which is almost 230 acres, takes some time. And you have different regulatory bodies involved, whether it's at the municipal level, state level, federal level, involved in sort of what goes on. And sometimes they're talking to each other, and sometimes they're not. So it's a complex sort of process before you get to it. And with construction, you expect challenges. Some things that you thought or you are not what they are once you break ground. So we broke ground, I think officially, you could say, back in August of this year. It's been going really well. We completed the mass grading. We have built the storm retention pond that you finally saw. It's a massive retention pond that acts as an amenity space. It has a boardwalk that goes around it. The idea is that to create a development that's very connected, all the way from, the different districts. So, you have a hotel district to the south, you have sort of a town center, and then you have sort of a retail district and shopping where you have majority of the traffic along the front, and then we have a deal with Walmart pending for the acquisition and development of a neighborhood concept store. This is a very high traffic location, high visible location, over 90,000 cars per day. And so, everything within the development has been planned for highest and best use, but also visibility. We have exposure of all the hotels from the main state road 429 that leads into Disney, as well as for the West Orlo Bronson 192. But over the next, I would say, 12 months, you will start seeing construction. We built our sales center first on site, which you visited. That is open now. The main purpose of the sales center is to pre-sell or pre-construction sales of condominiums, both of the MISC as well as the Nickelodeon. They have resort amenities, but there's also residences that people can purchase. So we're in the process of selling them. We've had great traction. Orlando is, I would say, #1 vacation property destination and investment sort of destination for investment internationally. So there's international buyers that are very much active in the Orlando market. So over the next course, we're in the process of getting building permits and foundation permits and things like that. And the idea is that over the next 24 months, that the construction of both those resorts will go.
So in 2 years, what you're saying is that the plan is in 2 years to complete them and start serving the community.
That's right, to open
Yeah,
open the hotels and give the occupancy to the residents that are buying the units. It looks like the whole entire development is sort of running concurrently, whether it's the medical center that we have with Regency Health, whether it's the Walmart or whether it's the retail. You're going to see a lot of the components moving at the same pace.
I see. So the first one I heard one of the colleagues you were discussing is that the starting the foundation for Nick is about to start in 3 to 4 months. It's almost starting up.
I would say foundations will be going in by February of next year.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done a lot of the site planning for the Nickelodeon. As I mentioned, it's construction, so you're moving buildings here and there. Sometimes there's a tree that comes into play, which was the case with our development there. There was a tree there that we had to actually remove, or we'd have to shift the building, so that sort of delayed us. But we're in the process of submitting our initial permit, and our objectives are to get the piles for the foundation going February.
Amazing. So anybody who's watching, you guys are welcome to visit Everest Place. You just type Everest Place on Google Maps, you'll find, and there's a sales center there. I think the best thing is just going, seeing, and believing. I did the same. And another thing, especially for Muslim viewers, Everest Place is going to be at RIS this year, right?
Yes.
The 22nd to 24th, and Everest Place is also going to the
Masikna in Chicago.
Chicago. What
Yeah.
are the dates for those?
I believe those dates are from the 28th to the 30th.
I would say. So the one of the questions I would like to ask is that since it is a project, huge project, by the way. So once done, it's going to be over $1 billion. So huge. I mean, in terms of not only the money, but also the area as well. One of the questions I would like to ask for those who are listening, a lot of Muslims, alhamdulillah, in our community, there are, as you said, doctors and lawyers, they have the money, and then they cannot usually use the regular ways of investing and earning money. And one of the good things with the MISC, for even the NIC as well, is this is a way of investment and making money according to their values without compromising their values. Because in this hotel, as you mentioned, you are not going to serve any alcohol. Everything is Sharia compliant, and the whatever you earn will be also Sharia compliant halal way. So tell us what are the options for potential investors, accredited or not accredited investors, part of the potential investors to be a part of this journey you are building. What are the ways to invest? What are the ways to other ways to be a part of? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned that we're doing pre-construction condominium sales or resident sales. That's one aspect of it where people can come in, purchase a residence. The price lists and things like that are going to be published to those people showing interest. The other way that we are launching is a fractional ownership program, so you could become a fractional owner of a unit.
What is the minimum fraction?
So the minimum fraction is, we're going to break it up into 1/12, so there'll be 12 fractions of a unit. So whether you take a studio that could be starting at around $360,000 US, units will go all the way up to $1 million plus. And the idea for the fractions is that we're going to break up some of the higher end units and break those up into fractions. And so depending on sort of what is your appetite for investment, you might fit in somewhere as low as $30,000-$40,000. And another way to invest is through our partnership with Caravan Funds. There will be a fund coming out through them, which is a crowdfunding platform. And that's another way to come in as a passive investor. I think the difference here is that when you're a fractional ownership, you're simply an owner. You get a deeded title. You own a piece of, whether you own a piece of a unit or you own the whole unit, you've got sort of more of a tangible asset. Whereas through the fund, it'll be more of a passive investment. Obviously the ownership of the unit gives you right of use, which means you'll get a certain amount of right of use. Whatever you don't use, you can put it into the rental program. The hotel management company will rent it out for you and distribute the income according to sort of the split that's been outlined in our agreement.
Yeah, this is one of the things actually I was really find it fascinating, because most of the time when you're renting or getting a unit, even timeshare, whatever the fractions, you're just getting that for whatever the time you have. So you might use it, you might not use it, right? But in this case, since it's Orlando, like annually, like 75 million people visit this place, just 5 minutes from Disney, and so the agreement, as you said, there's a hotel management service in place, so they will take care of the units for you, and you will get a share, even though you're not staying there.
Yeah, basically, it's a great investment or opportunity for those people that are completely, they want to be hands off. I mean, property management, I've done it, it's not easy. So you've got an international brand and management company managing your suite for you. They have a vested interest to maximize the revenue because they get a portion of that revenue. So their interests are aligned with yours. They're not simply just getting money out of you. They make money if they're rented out and they've got a certain amount of revenue coming out of it. Their objective is to maximize that. You don't have to worry about maintenance. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's really sort of hands off as far as you're concerned. So it's a great opportunity, and it's a branded product. It's like it's a brand, right? So it's not a no-name brand. It's a brand that will appreciate in value, but also generates money on a nightly basis based on the brand and the sort of, I guess, network that it has across the world.
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to mention, I've noticed is that when usually buying a condo, other places getting a condo, you're just getting this walls and this place. But in this case, um, as you said, you're getting a brand. It means that it's not just walls, right? It's actually furniture and established and designed in a way that, for example, if you go, we will mention the website as well, everestplace.com, and you can click on the link. You will see the design places. It's actually, you will see the character. You will see this vibrant color. You will not feel it's just a different thing, just a part of the whole offering. And that's, I think, another unique thing we should we should also mention and highlight.
It's a resort. It's a
It's a resort.
resort, and the environment is really like you're in a hotel resort, and yes, everything is standardized. It's, you're getting the furnished, and you're getting everything like you would in a hotel room, except it's a residence. You're getting all the amenities. In the case of Misk, you're getting the women's spa and the men's spa, and all those amenities and the pools. You're getting the access to the restaurants and the cuisines and things like that. So yeah, it's going to feel like you're in a resort setting, but you're in a residence, and it's your residence. And at the same time, that's what drives the revenue. Your guests, even, you might be the owner, but the guests that are staying there, they're renting the unit, they're coming there and they're paying for that experience. And that's how we're going to maximize the average daily rate. If you look at it as a standard condo, you won't get that same management, number one. You don't get the brand recognition. There are very few or next to no opportunities like this available even in the Orlando market, frankly, because people are not inclined to spend this kind of resources to come up with the brand. But the brand, it's like anything else, whether it's Gucci or Prada or anything else, the brand is worth money. And people want to stay in branded resort if possible.
Absolutely. Like right now, we're doing this interview in Canada. We're both based in Canada this moment. It's, if you look at the from the window, it's cold. It's gloomy. And I was last week in Orlando. It's like 20, 25 degrees. And as you know, there's a term in Canada called snowbirds, right? When it begins to snow and it's getting cold, people want to get out to sunny places and, enjoy their time. And I think, I'm just thinking, even for myself, I don't see why not just getting one of those units, even at least for a timeshare. Just go there when you need some sun and you come back. And that's, or even though you're not using it, you're going to be making, on like a passive income from those. So one question I want to ask as well, because a lot of people listening, say, hey, okay, that's good. How do we know? Like maybe this is the first time they're seeing you or me and say, how do we know it's real? Like what happens to our money? Because these are real concerns. A lot of investors. What would your answer be? That
Well, I think my answer is that, look, we ourselves as a principal of the development have invested a lot of money. By the time the horizontal construction is finished, we're going to be into it for over $100 million would have been spent. We're sort of neck deep in it. We wouldn't be going this far unless we had a game plan. We've signed all of our agreements with the hotels. We've designed the hotels. We've spent more money even on the vertical side of things already. We've spent well over $1 million on our sales center. I don't think we're talking about small amounts of money being spent here unless there's an outcome that we're after. We've also received a significant investment dollars from large investor groups. Frankly, we're capitalized to get the project done. We would not have a contract with Paramount Pictures if they didn't feel that this project was
could succeed.
was going to succeed.
Yeah.
And I would suggest to anybody that that has these thoughts or concerns is to come visit Orlando and see the project for themselves and watch the progress. But ultimately, we are there to deliver the product that we set out to do. The project is well received. There's a high level of interest from everybody from institutional funds to investors. Our investors, our initial investors that have come in, are very happy with the progress. Our number one job is to move the project forward. And ultimately, I think this is a very unique opportunity that people will not see anytime soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Yeah, just to echo what you said, about 3 weeks ago, I didn't know, I get to know you, but I really want to see, because the project is too big, and for me at least, like too huge. So one of the things I wanted to see myself, and I went with you. We stayed there for a week. I actually encourage everybody to go and see. There's a sales center up in there. You'll be there, or any sales agents or brokers, so that you can ask any questions. I think the best way is just to go and see, and seeing is believing, as we say. Go and see the ground, what are being built. Um, you know, to finalize our conversation, I tried to ask as many questions to get to know you, to get to know the project and opportunity. Do you think any other question or any other suggestions should have asked you, but I didn't? Would you like to mention? Of course, I'm gonna finish up by mentioning the website and things, but is there anything I should have asked, but I haven't?
No, I think you've covered everything. I think the key point here is that, look, this is a very unique development. It's destination oriented. It's a family friendly location with a lot of things that are complementary to each other. It's an exciting development. It's at a global scale. It has been featured in publications across the world, in news articles. It's on everyone's radar. It's the largest project in Central Florida. The municipality is very excited about this. And certainly, you know, as you mentioned, I think, you know, people should come visit it, whether it's now or whether in the future. I think it's going to be a place where everyone's going to be excited to come to.
Absolutely. So if you're in Canada, around in Toronto, Everest Place is going to be at the RAS. You just stop. Do you remember your booth number?
No, I don't know the booth number.
So you need to figure out. Maybe we'll mention the video description. You should come and visit them. And from us, the last but not the least I want to mention is the project website, everestplace.com. You can go and visit and get the latest updates, or you can follow them on social media. And having said that, I want to thank you, Brother Zafir. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give success to this project. I believe by doing so, I think that this project will be beneficial not to a lot of tourists, but also Muslim community, because as we discussed, if you remember, this will be one of the top choices for Muslims to stay, because it aligns with their, especially the Misk Hotel, aligns with their values.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I wanted to mention was that you know, we're taking reservations at the moment, and really there's no obligation to complete anything. It's non-binding at this stage, but there is a reservation process. What I can say is that we're encouraging Muslims to obviously look at investing into the MISC. We are seeing a lot of traction, especially from the South American and Latin market. And we certainly hope that we can have more Muslims purchasing units, as they are growing fast. But certainly, if there's any questions or anything else, we have a full team on the ground as well as online to address any of their questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
By having said that, I will say Assalamu alaikum until we see you next time.
Assalamu alaikum.